Hey guys, Kieran here back with another Last Epoch video. So, Cycle 2 is coming out fairly soon, but luckily Last Epoch tools have updated with all the details in the new patch. So I've put together a new concept which is Shield Bash Forge Guard, simply because Forge Guard has been buffed this patch. Forge Guard does feel much better. Also, Shield Bash received a minor rework, so the way it functions is slightly different and a lot of the skill nodes got changed. So it's time to build into Shield Bash, which is a concept that I've always wanted to play on Sentinel class. And Sentinel class is one of the classes I've spent hundreds of hours playing. So I'm really excited that this new cycle is going to be a new shake-up to the meta. We're going to see how Forge Guard performs in this new cycle. Forge Guard, based on the notes, does feel much tankier than it was before. The biggest introduction to Forge Guard, being one of the oldest classes, is that Forge Guard now has a lot of point bonuses on their passives. So if we look at the passive skill tree and go to the Forge Guard section, you will notice now there's point bonuses. So there's a 3-point bonus on Steel Aegis, there's a 5-point bonus on Weapons Master, there's a 5-point bonus on Avatar War, and you'll find these scattered throughout the Forge Guard tree now. Before, Forge Guard didn't have this. Also, this one got buffed quite a lot. So now you get 5% increased armor that lasts for 10 seconds and stack up to 10 times. I think this was like 3% or something before. So you get up to 50% now as opposed to what it was before. So this passive bonus is much stronger. And the way that they've structured Forge Guard now is Forge Guard is basically going to be a weapons master. So you have stuff in the skill tree related to two-handed weapons. So you get increased crit chance plus crit multipliers, having two-handed weapons. They've also made it so that Forge Guard focuses a lot on strength as well. So you get crit multiplier per 2 points of strength. If we type in here strength in the skill tree, you'll notice there's a few nodes related to strength. So you get strength here, you get bonuses for building strength, you get a bonus here for building strength, you get the fire and physical penetration. And so this is introducing a variety of different types of builds to the Forge Guard tree. Of course, back from the old Forge Guard skill tree, there's also a way of speccing into dexterity. This is the Javelineer related one. I don't know how good this is going to be, but again, in the skill tree, there are some slight changes to throwing attacks. So there's quite a lot of throwing attack changes. Before they had this node, which increases the amount of a throwing attack mana cost. This used to be 6, so now that it's halved, it's going to be much more usable. So this is also a really nice change. I don't know how good this is going to be because this still does make costs of your skills very expensive. They've also changed Shield Crafter. So this particular skill gave you Ring of Shields when you get hit, but this used to be 3%. Now it's 50%, so it's way better than it was before. I think 3% was basically a meme because it was so terrible. But now that it's 50%, it's actually takeable. So we're doing a build concept here. I want to spec into Shield Bash, and the way that they've specced the passive tree for Forge Guard now is also heavily focused on block and strength. So Forge Guard is going to be a character where if you spec into building shields, you're going to get a lot of armor, and you're going to get a lot of block chance and block effectiveness. So if you don't remember, block chance is the chance for you to block, and that can go up to 100%. And block effectiveness, if you build that number, it's essentially damage reduction, and that number caps at 85%. With Forge Guard, you essentially have the potential to get up to 85% damage reduction, excluding armor. So if you build armor on top of that, essentially Forge Guard can be the tankiest class in the game, and that's excluding the Stalwart passive bonus here, which gives up to 50% increased bonus. So Forge Guard is just going to get huge amounts of armor and huge amounts of block. The other thing that isn't noted as much is also parry chance. So there are ways to build parry chance as well, and that's included now, that parry chance is such a new mechanic to Last Epoch. All of that aside, let's talk about our build. Again, this is just a build concept, but this is a build that I will be working on in the new cycle. So this is a Shield Bash focused build. Let's have a look at Shield Bash and what changes they made to Shield Bash. So Shield Bash, as a default, requires a shield for you to use. Because Shield Bash wasn't used before, I don't think a lot of people know what Shield Bash actually did. But essentially, Shield Bash scales off of your block chance. So you do want to use a shield in the build. Now it says here, you get 1.5% more damage per block chance, up to 150%, multiplicative with other modifiers. So this is a multiplicative, more damage type modifier. And now it's actually on an 18-second cooldown, but you get 20% of your cooldown back when you stun an enemy, and that can happen up to 2 times each second. So there is a way to reduce the cooldown of your shield bash quite often if you are stunning enemies. But because we're speccing into shield bash, we essentially want to get this node, Flurry of Blows. This is a new change. This used to cost 25 mana, but now it only costs 9. 25 mana was ridiculously expensive, but now it only costs 9, and especially on a class that doesn't build any mana. Mana is not something you want to get on a Forge Guard. You really want to get strength and things like that. So now you get Flurry of Blows. It only costs 9, which is great. And then we've got more damage modifiers that we take. So all the damage modifiers, we're going to take all of those. I also wanted to spec into Ring of Shields as well. So that's why we're taking this node here, Wall of Shields. So if Shield Bash is used whilst Ring of Shields is active, the shields form a wall, which increases the width of your Shield Bash based on the number of active shields, and you can have a maximum of 7. So I thought this might be a nice change. If this isn't great, you do need to spend 4 points to get into this node. So instead of this, if we choose not to take this node, we can actually instead take the increased area. So we have increased area here, and we have increased area here. This makes it wider. This one makes your shield bash longer. Then also we've got the more damage modifiers here in the form of extra melee damage. And again, shield bash will be a melee focus skill. Just looking at the scaling tags on shield bash, it's a physical, melee, area, and strength based skill. Strength is going to give it 4% more damage. So you want to build as much strength as possible. You want to get all the melee and physical damage multipliers as well. So to help boost the damage, we're taking Sigils of Hope. Sigils of Hope is probably one of the staples on Sentinel. I'd say a staple is Healing Hands, Sigils of Hope, Anomaly, or Volatile Reversal. Those 4 skills are pretty much in every single, at least one of those skills will be in every single Sentinel build possible so far in the game. Javelin as well is a close second, because Javelin does provide the battle standard as a buff, but essentially one of those skills, they're all buff skills, and they're all going to provide something useful that pairs well with your main damage skill. In this case, it's Shield Bash. So again, Shield Bash, we take all the more damage modifiers, and we're taking the Wall of Shields to pair with our Ring of Shields. So speaking of Ring of Shields, we're taking the increased health modifiers. We're also taking the rotation. So Ring of Shields will essentially put a Ring of Shields around you, and that will take up the damage. So this actually makes Forge Guard also much more tanky as well, because you have those minions to take on that damage. Now Shield Rush is also included in our build, but we're not actually speccing into it. So I just took the base form of Shield Rush. And in that case, we've got Shield Rush Wall here. Your shields form a wall in front of you, increasing the area you hit. Next, with Sigils of Hope, we're taking all of the damaging increasing modifiers. So here we have the increased healing effectiveness, we have increased damage here and here, we have increased cast speed, and we have a skill to make Sigils of Hope cost less mana. This mana one, I think you can maybe get rid of, but it is mainly to get this node here, which increases the number of sigils that you get. The other close second is instead getting the Sigils of Hope lasting longer. We do have a new unique in our build, which is this one here, the Orion's Sun Shield, the Sun Seal. This is a new unique, which basically buffs your Sigils of Hope. So this increases the duration of Sigils of Hope, and every 10 seconds, if you're above a certain amount of mana, you'll basically cast Sigils of Hope by itself. So this is actually a really good item. If you can get this with Legendary Potential, this will be huge for Sentinel builds. And pretty much you can use it in any single Sentinel build, because again, Sigils of Hope is such a good buff skill. Next, we have Volatile Reversal. I'm taking Volatile Reversal because it's such a good buff skill. You get the increased damage from Harbingers of Dust here. You get the increased 30% damage. You also have the recovery speed node, the cooldown recovery speed nodes. So this will be on like a 2-second cooldown instead of being on a 24-second cooldown. And you can have this buff up all the time. So that also increases your damage. And then finally, I took Javelin here, and we're basically speccing into the Surprise Initiative node. This is a good traversal node, as well as this buffing your damage as well. Quickly looking at the passives tree, you want to get all of the strength nodes and all of the melee physical damage nodes. So here we've got melee physical, we we have strength, and all the resistance nodes, we have some increased health, and we also want to get as much block chance as possible, because again, block chance and block effectiveness will increase our damage. I'm not actually speccing into full block effectiveness, because I believe we can get block effectiveness in other parts of the build. Again, we'll have to test this out fully when the actual launch happens, but essentially we want to get as much strength as possible. We want to get all of the armor nodes where possible. So this is a sample skill tree and attunement, because I think the 5-point bonus for this is insanely good. It gives us damage over time mitigation from armor per 2 attunement. Now we aren't actually building attunement in our build, so it won't be insanely good, but for a paladin, I think if a paladin specs into this node, they're going to mitigate a lot of damage. So something to note as a nice change in the paladin, in the Forge Guard skill tree. So essentially we're picking up all of the armor nodes and all of the strength nodes, all of the damage and melee physical nodes. And then finally we're also picking up the Ring of Shields here, which gives us a chance to cast Ring of Shields when you block something. Now blocking an attack considers you taking a hit, and that will trigger Stalwart, and that will give you the 50% increased armor. So this will make you really, really tanky as a character. We're going to have to find out, again, on the launch, how everything's going to work. But this is one of the builds I will be working on when the launch comes out. And we'll be trying to go for the pinnacle bosses with a shield bash. Just looking at the items really quickly. So we're taking a shield, obviously, because it's a shield build. I wanted to get a shield that gives us a lot of block chance and block effectiveness, whilst also giving us damage. And this shield seems to do that. It's giving us the melee damage, it's giving us block effectiveness and strength. So if we can get this item with LP on it, it's going to be insanely good. The only problem with this is you can see the effective level of legendary potential of this item is 100. So it's pretty much going to be impossible to find with legendary potential, but let's hope we're lucky. I think this is a new item. We also have this new item as well, Monument of Protection. This is an axe, which looks like a shield, or is it a shield that is an axe? I'm not sure. It gives us melee damage, block chance, block effectiveness, health gain on block. It gives us melee damage for shield bash. It gives us more block effectiveness. So this item is perfect for shield bash. I also tried to pick up uniques that give us a lot of armor and give us a lot of stats, because stats will give us more damage. So you can see here, Core of the Mountain does give us armor and attributes. In particular, we're getting strength. I also think the Nihilist Amulet will be perfect as well. Nihilist gives us all levels, and it gives us more armor and all resist. That is also why we have the Code of the Erased. Again, gives us more armor mitigation for damage over time. We also get increased Sentinel levels, and we get -3 cost to melee skills. So Code of the Erased is perfect for build like this. But yeah, essentially on stats, you want to focus on armor, you want to focus on strength, and you want to focus on maxing out your block chance and also your block effectiveness as well, capping that at the 85% DR. So yeah, so that's my build concept for Shield Bash Forge Guard. Since the new cycle is out, I'm going to be blasting Last Epoch. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Drop me a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. As always, have an awesome day. Bye for now.